You know, usually when I try to like get in the zone, I usually just have like heavy rap, like a lot of like trap music, Future, Drake, listen to a little bit of like Pop Smoke or Gunna. So I have a lot of that blasting on throughout like the meet, just trying to like get myself like pumped up to go, getting ready to go. The best swims usually come when I'm like not thinking about anything. It's just kind of like where I just like kind of switch my brain off, and I'm just kind of like, my body knows what to do. I do it all the time in training, so I just kind of like switch that off and like just let my body do the work. My mom can't swim, so she wanted us to be water safe. My dad's big on the water. He's a surfer. So he has a love for the water, and that kind of like transitioned with me and my brothers. We all kind of grew up like around the water, like surfing or just love playing in the water. And then just kind of evolved from there. So my parents are military, so we've like moved all over. I was born in Florida, Jacksonville Beach. My parents then moved to California, moved to the East Coast, moved to Texas for like 2 or 3 years. Then I lived in Germany for 4. By the time I moved out of Germany, I was around 13. So that summer, when I moved to the States, we got stationed at Las Vegas, Air Base in Las Vegas. That's where I kind of started taking swimming seriously, so 8th grade. I was training in Vegas for about 3 years, and that's when I moved to Guam, so I was about 15, 16 around then. I am a citizen of Guam now, so technically you are still a US citizen. It's just that your identification is now like on Guam. It's just now I don't have voting rights, so Guam can't vote in like US elections, just like Puerto Rico. So it's basically the same thing. I'm still a United States citizen. It's just I'm a resident of Guam now. I like the community that's I guess embedded in the culture within Guam, the Chamorro culture. It's a very like family oriented, like we take care of our people type of culture. I mean, like the coaches that I have like on my club, they care for you, they take care of you, they want you to succeed, and it's kind of like that, like kind of all over the island. You got like a bunch of like, I guess you have a bunch of people pushing for you, and that's what I like about it. You're driving around the island and you just see like ocean all around you, and you're like, there's like nothing out here, right? Like you're in the middle of the Pacific Ocean with like no other islands really like kind of around you. So that like, I think the first year that was definitely an adjustment, but I actually really enjoy that now, because like I'm on a small island that can like drive from like the north end to the south end within like probably like 30 minutes. So like I don't know, I found some comfort in that, where it's like, oh, this is kind of like my home now. Coming from Guam, there are a lot of people who kind of look like me. Like it's just like it was really weird, like coming back to the States in general. Just coming back and being like, wow, there are like a lot of like white people here. Like I wasn't like prepared for this, but yeah, I think it was definitely a shock. That is something that like kind of affects me, because like it is like a space where it's like that I'm not very used to, you know, that I wouldn't say I'm not comfortable in it, but it's definitely like kind of a lot of adjustment. Yes, I am involved with ASAC.
So what do you do?
So that's been like a really kind of like, I guess, breath of fresh air. Just like kind of being in like, I guess like this safe space, and like making sure like we can like, I don't know, just kind of be ourselves, or like talk about like issues within like athletics, especially at this school, which is like majority white, and a lot of our athletes are like, a lot of like the people of color here are student athletes, which I think is like something that definitely needs to be fixed, because there are a handful of like people who are students of color who like are here just for like academics, and I think that is something that like we need to like, I guess change, because you actually do like to see like representation like at your schools, and that is something that is very important. Swimming is, at least in the United States, is a majority like white sport where you don't really see a lot of people like me. I've had this many times where I'm like the only, like I step on deck and I'm like the only person of color, and it's kind of like, it's kind of nerve-wracking at first, like if you think about it, but like I kind of like try to let my performances speak instead of like how I look on deck, you know? Like, sure, I stand out, but I want to make my swimming stand out instead, you know? I don't want people to like look at me and be like, oh, there's that one black kid on deck. They'll say, hey, there's that kid who just went fast, you know? Like, I don't really like having that limitation on me. But also, I think it's beneficial because you need to see representation, especially within this sport. That's something that I love to see. I've loved seeing like the rise of like African American swimmers within this sport, and that's like taken like place in the past couple of years. You've seen just a lot of like really fast like swimmers come up in the scene, and they're like people of color, and that's like something that definitely matters. Like other swimmers that I looked up to that were like people of color, like Cullen Jones, Simone Manuel, Natalie Hines, like all just like great swimmers like in their own right, just like being people of color and like stepping up to like the standard that the United States does have on the world of swimming. So if I could be just like an ounce of that, like towards like someone like, I don't know, someone who's watching who kind of like looks like me and they're like, hey, like if he can do that, like I can do that, you know? Like that's why I think like definitely representation matters, especially in sports like swimming. So conference championships was definitely like the biggest meet I've been to. I wouldn't say it was the best meet I've had, like for my like own expectations. Not time-wise, because I did drop a lot time-wise, but I think like my own expectations for how I like performed, how I came into it mentally. Mentally it was a little nerve-wracking, just kind of coming in, like going to this big venue, just seeing like a bunch of like these people like swimming fast. I kind of wasn't like focusing on like what I could do myself. I was kind of focused on the people around me, and yeah, so conference was definitely a learning experience for me, and it's got me pretty hungry for next season, where I feel I want to do better definitely than this year. I'm usually a fly freer. I do a breaststroke a little bit. That's why I think my IM is pretty decent, because I have like kind of those 3 strokes locked down. I don't really have like a lot of backstroke because I don't really train that a lot. But I think I find myself like a pretty versatile swimmer. I feel like I can kind of like go anywhere. If I trained right for it, I could probably go up to like the distance events or go down to the sprint events, you know? Like, I feel like that's something that is one of my strengths for sure. And I think that's just the way I've like trained throughout like my age group years. I just kind of trained for everything. I didn't train for like one single event. So that's what I find one of my strengths to be. So I think swimming is definitely like something that's very like, I guess, underrated in the term of like work that you need to put into it. I mean, all my teammates, like we wake up at like 5 a.m. just to like get a lift in. And then usually some of us have like a swim right after, and then like a swim, and then we have an afternoon practice right after. And like the amount of conditioning and kind of just like raw power that you need, just like kind of that mixture of both, like you need so much in swimming, and it's like so essential to the sport, like in order to succeed. And I think that's something that's like really overlooked. I credit swimmers as being some of the hardest workers ever, like in sports, I feel. Because I feel like in order to succeed, you need to put that work in. Because that is something like when it gets to the time where you do like taper down, where you start like getting ready for your championship meet, like your races are going to be like decided between like hundredths of seconds. Like you need to be ready in that time. You need to put that work in throughout the season. And if you don't, it kind of speaks for itself. That's what I like about swimming. I like how like I can kind of rely on myself. I rely on my own abilities to like get what I need done and do what I need to do to get the job done. It's a very mental sport when you get to the time like where you need to race. You kind of got to make sure like everything's like there mentally, like you're like locked in. You're not kind of like thinking about like the external factors. Like that's kind of like one of the reasons why like conference wasn't the biggest success for me, because I did kind of get a lot in my head, and I was kind of like worried on like the external factors instead of just focusing on myself. That's like another thing that I think is very important about swimming, that mental game. So that's definitely something that I'm like trying to work on this next season, just like making sure that my mental game's right, and I'm ready to go. I haven't declared, but I'm planning on doing exercise science, so I'm taking like the necessary courses right now, but I haven't declared my major. I've always had like just kind of a passion for sports. As soon as I'm done swimming, I want to be still involved in sports in a way, whether that's like coaching athletes, helping athletes recover, helping them get better so they can, like, if they're injured, you know, help them like get better to where they need to be so they can perform to the best of their ability. So.